On today's Locked On Royals podcast, are the Kansas City Royals an embarrassment a month into the season? What you should be looking forward to, even as the record is at an abysmal clip. We'll talk about it all coming up on today's Locked On Royals podcast.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Royals podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Royals. Email the show, lockedonroyals@gmail.com. On today's show, brought to you by our good friends over at Gametime, folks. At Gametime, you can go there right now, download the app, and create an account using code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. We're going to talk about the Royals season a month in. Is this season an embarrassment? Is this season a disappointment? What would you classify this as? We're going to talk about that and this series against the Baltimore Orioles and what we saw over the weekend as well. So a lot to get to today, so settle in. Let's start with just where this Royals team is at. If you've listened to this podcast since its inception, you know that I'm pretty negative on the team because of just all of their shortcomings. But even I was saying that this team was good enough to become a competitive one, not make the postseason, not, even break 500. But the goal this season was for the Royals to be a team that night in and night out, you could enjoy watching play baseball. That night in and night out, you could want to gather around the television and enjoy the ride of the season. Because for the last few years, it's felt like a chore to watch the Kansas City Royals. And that's just the bottom line. They've been so bad with so little going right that it's felt difficult to enjoy watching baseball, which is not good on any level. It's not good from a team building, like trying to win a World Series level. It's not good from a business level. It's not good from an entertainment level. Like there's no level in which the Royals are succeeding. They're not putting an entertaining product on the field. They're not putting a winning product on the field. They're not creating an environment that makes you want to watch them. They're not, accessible on television. People don't go to the games. Like, it's just terrible all the way around. And I thought this season it would start to change. That, yes, they're not going to win a ton of ball games, but when you sit down, hey, it's going to be a faster paced game now with all these rule changes, which I'm still very, very bullish on. I think these rule changes have saved baseball. And the Royals won't get blown out every night because I thought that this lineup was going to be a lot better. I thought that you could see an improvement from the pitching staff when you look at the fact that you have an all-new regime developing these young pitchers. And that just has not came true yet. Like, to this point, that has not been true. And I think that this is at the level of embarrassment. This is no longer, a bad team. This is no longer a rebuilding team. This is no longer a retooling team. This is no longer just, a mediocre team or a non-good team. This is an embarrassment of a franchise at this point. when you look around, people are saying, well, the Oakland A's, they could be the worst team of all time. They could be the worst baseball team we've ever seen. The Oakland A's presently are 6-24. The Kansas City Royals are 7-23, and they've got a series coming up against each other. Like there is no hiding. You are the worst team in baseball. You are the joke at the party. And through front office changes, through managerial changes, through coaching staff changes, through personnel changes, that has been the constant. That's been what's remained consistent is that the Royals are an embarrassment. The Royals have gotten to the postseason twice in my lifetime, and they've played competitively 4 times in my lifetime. And the worst part is, as if all that wasn't bad enough, it feels like apathy has set in for this fan base. We talked about it last week. But the worst place to be is apathetic. These teams want you loyal. They want you excited. They want you blinded by anything that they do, and you just call it a good move. They also want you mad. Like if they can't get that out of you, okay, they understand. Then they prefer you to be mad and still care. But what we're seeing right now, as the Chiefs are building and creating and sustaining a dynasty, and you have more entertainment options than ever before in the entire history of the world. You have more options to go find something to do every single night. The city itself is growing, and you've replaced what once was a constant of your life of watching Royals baseball. It just seems like no one cares. And there's still going to be the diehards who do care and who do watch every single game, but it's getting to the point where the fan base is resigned to the fact, well, yep, the Royals just suck, and there's nothing to do. There's no point to watch it. There's no point to pay attention to it. They don't deserve me to pay attention to it. And whenever you reach that stage as an organization where there's more people that think that way than any other way, then you are then classified as an embarrassment. And this is no longer a on the field issue or what moves can you make to make this right. It's going to take a full blown teardown. I think we've gotten our answer to the question we asked all offseason long. Is this a full rebuild, or is this a retool after firing Dayton Moore? Did you have enough pieces? Did you have enough pieces to grow around? The answer, I think, is no. A month into the season. We'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at Gametime, folks. Gametime is awesome. It is where you want to go to get the best tickets out there at the lowest prices guaranteed. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today or go to gametime.com and make sure you use the code LOCKEDONMLB. That'll get you $20 off of your first purchase. You can get a view from your seat when you go there before you buy it. You can get event cancellation protection. You can get job loss protection as well on these tickets. And most importantly, when you go there to buy the lowest priced tickets at the last minute, prices guaranteed, you're going to be able to just go there, not have to worry about a bunch of fees, not have to worry about finding the right deal because they're all the right deal for you at Gametime. You can just buy it and enjoy the event. Start getting excited about it. Start getting amped for it. And you should enjoy the event that you're going to at Gametime. So check it out today. It's Gametime, the app, or gametime.com, and then use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. It's Gametime on the app. I also want to say right now about our good friends over at Sorare. Sorare is a fun game that I think you should check out. It is a digital game that brings the world of baseball cards, but also real life baseball all in one. Sorare is awesome. So it's a revolutionary fantasy baseball game that's marketed to transform fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, Sorare managers truly do own their fantasy experience. You collect, you buy, you sell, and you're competing with other player cards from a global opponent to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. So check it out today at Sorare. what you can do is just go there and enter their MLB game of the week that happens twice weekly and spans 3 to 4 day cycles. At the end of the game of the weeks, so where MLB managers who rank near the top of their leaderboards can win an array of prizes, which include so where security cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. Prizes may vary depending on competition. Head right now to Sorare.com/locked on. That is Sorare, SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards and set your lineups and start competing today with epic rewards. Again, that's Sorare.com/locked on to get started playing today. We're back on the Locked On Royals podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for joining us on today's Locked On Royals. We're going to be discussing everything about this season a month in. Is this season an embarrassment for the Kansas City Royals? And I know that that is a strong word. I know that that is a kind of loaded word, embarrassment, rather than disappointment, rather than a bad team. But it is embarrassing to get to this point where you've been rebuilding for years and years and years and years, and it's just not been good enough. And not only are you not good enough, you're not even respectable. Like the Royals do not have a respectable lineup, a respectable rotation, a respectable bullpen, a respectable manager, a respectable anything. Nothing is respectable about the Royals right now. And for that to be the case is disheartening whenever you look up and down that lineup and thought that the season would go differently than it has. And we're only a month in, and things can change, but not this dramatically. Right? It does not change to this degree. The bottom line is Bobby Witt Jr. might be an all-star level player. MJ Melendez might be a really good starter. But there's not much more there. Like these guys that we thought were going to be so great. I still think that Bobby Witt Jr. is good. I still think that Vinny Pasquantino is good. I still think that MJ Melendez is good. But they're not producing yet. And it's disheartening as you look around and see these other young stars producing to then see your young stars not producing. But the visions of this season being carried by the offense has not been the case. Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, MJ Melendez. I mean, I love the decision to call back up Nick Pratto. There's absolutely no reason on earth to ever see Hunter Dozier play again for the Royals. I like the decision of putting Garcia in the lineup and calling him up. But the frustrating part is there's no answer, right? And there won't be an answer this year of what to do. Or I should say there's no scapegoat. Like last year, you could say, well, they're not playing the young players enough. Well, Mike Matheny's too old school. They're giving the young guys chances. They're just not playing well. And you go to the rotation. Zach Greinke's fine. Brady Singer's taking a step back. But I am not concerned yet about Brady Singer's step back. And we haven't really seen any of the other young arms get a chance. Like it doesn't matter what Brad Keller does. Like Brad Keller is 28 years old, and it's clear that the Royals are so far behind the 8 ball that they're not going to be able to be competitive before he turns 30. And it's just forget about Brad Keller. Doesn't matter what Jordan Lyles does. Doesn't matter what Ryan Yarbrough does. Like fine, if they're good, if they're good, fine. If they're bad, fine. Doesn't matter. Zach Greinke is just here for a swan song. The only one in the rotation that matters is Brady Singer, and he's taking a slight step back. And I think that he'll rebound nicely. The bullpen, it's just non-encouraging to see this Royals team. And I think that Bubic, before he got hurt, did show promising signs beyond the stats. Like the stats, you might not see them as incredible eye-popping. You might see them as small sample size. You might see them as whatever you want to interpret his stats as this season. But I think that the life on his pitches, break on his pitches got a lot better, and it just physically looked better. So even though his ERA was like a 4.4 before he got hurt, it still looked a lot better. execution wise and like again just stuff and movement wise than it had in years past. Where that's encouraging. That if he kept getting the pitch, besides having Tommy John, he would have been able to maybe had one of those improvement years. But now he's on Tommy John, and we'll see what happens with that whenever it gets whenever he gets over it, and whenever he gets past it. But it's just disheartening too because it feels like the Royals can't play together. Like one night the offense might score 7 runs, but the pitching staff gives up 11, and the pitching staff might limit the opponent to 2 runs, but the offense scores 0. It's just a telltale sign of a bad team, and the Royals are a historically bad team, and they'll get hot. They'll have a month where everyone is hitting, 300, and the pitchers are shoving, and they win 14 games. They'll have that month. It'll happen. It's an example that I've used for the Pirates. Like, remember whenever the Royals were the best team in April, not that long ago, and then that season they still lost 100 games. To get to 100 losses, you're still going to have months where you are awesome. But the bottom line is, at this stage of where the rebuild is supposed to be, the Royals are not supposed to be a 6-win team a month into the year. Whenever you've played the majority of your games at home, you've played a lot of your games at home, you've avoided some of the best teams in baseball, and you still cannot win. And I'm sorry. And this is probably too old school of me, which is ironic because I'm 25 years old, but every team does not need a home run celebration gimmick, like the Trident in Seattle, like the big hat in Atlanta. Every team does not need one of those. When you're a 6-win team, you do not need a home run helmet. It is an embarrassment to watch these guys hit a home run and put the home run helmet on down 4 runs because they hit a home run on a 6-win ball club. And I get it. That is me. I'm going to admit to you on the front end and the back end, that is me being unfair to the players and to the team, but it's just bad optics. And this is going to be one of the oldest sounding statements I ever say. You need to earn the right for those gimmicks. And you do that by being a competitive team. I have no problem with Seattle doing it, with Atlanta doing it. No problem. They are good teams in playoff chases. They're not 6-win ball clubs. 6-win ball clubs need to worry more about how to execute than how to celebrate. Because let me tell you, there's not many things to celebrate. There just isn't. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to find one thing to celebrate. You look up and down this roster, who's the guy that you're extremely excited about? And not who you're supposed to be excited about, who's produced. If you knew nothing about this team coming in, if I gave you faceless, nameless players, these are just their stats. That's all we're looking at. That's all that it is. Who are you excited about? Who jumps out as somebody who's a good ball player? I love Vinny Pasquantino. I liked watching, Melendez and Witt go for homers last night. But on a day in and day out basis, who would you put your feather in the cap in for? So again, the home run helmet thing, that's just a me personally thing. I just don't like it. Whenever I'm watching you lose and get curb stomped every single night. And that's the biggest part of it too. To put a bow on this coming up, I'll tell you exactly why this season is an embarrassment. And we'll preview tonight's game. But first, I want to say right now about BetterHelp. BetterHelp is there for you because finding yourself is hard to do. And you're going to spend an eternity looking for yourself. And it can get easy and easier by getting help at BetterHelp. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed for a convenient, flexible kind of tool to flex around your schedule and still get you the help that you need. You fill out this brief questionnaire, and then it matches you with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time with no additional charges if you need to. So find more balance within BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/LockedOnMLB Get started today with 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. We're back on the Locked On Royals podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Royals baseball. Now, folks, why is this season an embarrassment? Because the Royals are getting absolutely crushed in every game. And it might sound silly, but it's not when I say this. If the Royals were a 7-win team, but they lost every single game by 1 run, it would not matter. In the sense of their record would not matter. That would be a fun season because we understand this is a young team that needs another high draft pick. And if they lost every game by 1, it means some little thing each game went wrong, which for a young team is fine. It's fine if you lose 5-4 and the difference was a 6th inning home run by Brady Singer. He gave it up in the 6th inning, trying to push him to go further into games, and he made one mistake pitch, and that was it. Okay, cool. We can live with that. Or if the game is 10-9 and Bobby Witt Jr. got thrown out in the bottom of the 9th to lose the game because he was trying to make a play going first to home on a gap shot, and that's how the Royals lose. That's fine. But when you're getting drummed and when you're non-competitive and when your run differential is as bad as it is in Kansas City, one of the worst in baseball, that is where you have the problem. That's where you have an embarrassment come in and not just a bad team. Be competitive. Like, I think that this month has been a disaster of a month, and I will give the Royals credit here. In tomorrow's show, we'll talk about where they need credit, but let's tease that with this. The Royals are trying to make adjustments. Okay, look, MJ's not hitting. Let's DFA Remo Reyes because who cares? He's 50 years old and he's not going to be around whenever we're good, even if he performs good. Him performing good or bad does not matter for our organization. Let's DFA him. Let's bring up another catcher. MJ, you're not catching anymore. You're just an outfielder. You focus on being an outfielder. Focus on being a hitter. Don't worry about bouncing back and forth between outfield, hitting, DHing. Don't worry about all that. Just be an outfielder. Be a hitter. That's a great adjustment for a young player. And it's a coincidence that he hit a home run last night after that was reported. But still, take some of that pressure off and try to help him any way you can. I love that adjustment. And so while admitting to you this whole last 22 minutes that this season's an embarrassment, a failure, a catastrophic embarrassment of a season, moving forward now, though, let's see how they adjust. I would vote we wipe the slate clean. Everything that's happened, good, bad, or indifferent, in the last 30 days, null and void, and let's see how they adjust to it. Let's see how this group, a new management staff, a new front office, let's see how this group adjusts to that adversity. Because I do like the adjustment to DFA Reyes, bring up a catcher, and just to try to help one of your young players. That is a huge tool to be investing in your young player in that way. So I love that. And I think that that's going to be great for MJ. How many more adjustments like that can you make that then stack into being more competitive? You can only win 7 games this month again, but if they're more competitive, that's what you're looking for. Because the season's lost. Win-loss record's lost. The playoff chase is lost. You are out of any significant game before Labor Day, before Memorial Day, before April 3rd. You're out of any significant game. Your record does not matter one bit. What does matter, though, is if you can play competitive. Let me know what you think on Twitter at Lockdown Royals. And on tomorrow's show, we're going to discuss this series against Baltimore. We're also going to have a podcast on the next day with Connor Newcomb of Lockdown O's to talk O's rebuild and recap the entire series. Friday, we're going to preview the weekend, see what we should look for in that next series. Big ones coming up against the White Sox, A's, and these teams. This is going to separate. This next few weeks are going to separate who's going to get the crown for the worst team in baseball, who's going to get the crown for a historically bad team, because someone's got to win and lose this weekend, right? Like, someone's got to win and lose this weekend. And if the Royals get swept by the Athletics, the Royals would be on pace for being the worst team ever. If the Royals sweep the Athletics would be on pace for that marker. So, like, something's got to happen this weekend. And we'll talk about all that coming up. But thank you for listening today. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, be good to one another.